big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. Advertising, marketing, strategy, brand building, news, reviews and all the AdMal lowdown you could ever ask for. So let's get straight to business and take a look at what's going to keep you glued for the next half hour. Right on top, UPA2 goes in for a 100 crore makeover. We take a close look at its campaign strategy and tell you how exactly it will pan out. Sales versus marketing, the age-old rivalry, still seems to be one of the key issues in an organization. Brand Equity takes a look at whether sales versus marketing can ever become sales and marketing in the near future. And last but not the least, media veterans Sudha Natarajan and Raghav Subramaniam get experimental and launch the country's first ever exclusive media hangout called the Media Cafe in Gurgaon. Apart from announcing a slew of big, bold reforms, the UPA2 is finally upping its game with an intensive advertising campaign underway for its flagship program, Bharat Nirman, in an image makeover exercise ahead of the poll season. Conceptualized by Percept under the aegis of DAVP and the Ministry of IMD, this rights-based campaign aims to build a platform to direct the voters' attention to UPA's initiatives for the rural masses in particular. With the image of the government finally being redeemed after strong policy decisions and a decisive stand, the timing is tailor-made. Is this going to be a game changer with the elections in sight for a government plagued by controversies and scams? Or are we looking at another India shining debacle? Nikita Saxena gets you the entire lowdown.
भारत सरकार के मनरेगा ने दिया 5 करोड़ से अधिक परिवारों को 100 दिन के पक्के रोजगार और स्थायी आमदनी का हक। 1 करोड़ से अधिक गर्भवती महिलाओं को मिला सुरक्षित और मुफ्त प्रसव का हक। अल्पसंख्यकों को मिला 1.65 लाख करोड़ की वित्तीय सहायता का हक।
48 लाख छात्रों को पोस्ट मैट्रिक स्कॉलरशिप का हक।
College's second burst of life, a political comeback, or the desperate attempts of a government faced with constantly fading voter support. But be it the hike in diesel prices, the cap on subsidies on LPG, or the much talked about FDI in retail policy, the UPA just gave India its biggest set of economic reforms since 1991 and itself a new lease of life.
The prices of diesel and LPG in India are lower than those in Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka and Pakistan.
Intentional or not, Congress's newfound determination provided a perfect setting for the latest and 6th phase of their flagship Bharat Nirman campaign that kick-started on 3rd September. While the initial pitch had many contending agencies, including the likes of Lolintas, Grey Worldwide and Dentsu, the account was finally won by Percept and is being executed under the aegis of the Directorate of Advertising and Visual Publicity that is also handling its media duties. With the elections uncomfortably close and the battle lines clearly drawn for a government increasingly resolute about winning back its voters, this image makeover exercise could just be their potential ace.
This year the focus is going to be on empowerment. It's talking about some of the successes that these 7 programs have achieved over the years, and ensuring that people understand that this is their haq, this is their right. It's not that the government is providing these, but it is that they need to demand these of the government. So that's we're just, ensuring that people are aware of this fact.
If you look at all the 6-7 films, it's the people's campaign. People are talking and it's not the government that is talking. Yeah. Point number 2, it's unlike the last campaigns, this was it's an advertising campaign, as in it's classic storytelling. I mean, from a creative point of view, I didn't see it as a political or a non-political campaign. What I saw was an opportunity to do some good work and, to do a campaign which, unless you saw the logo or unless you heard the VO, you won't be able to make out that it's a political campaign. It's as simple as that. Yeah. So, and there were strong benefits in the sense, the statistics that came to me from whichever ministry, they were, As far as I am concerned, they were, like we are called in a language, there was strong reason to believe.
औरों को बेवकूफ मत बनाना अब से।
Treading a cautious line, the sixth phase of the Bharat Nirman campaign, armed with the tagline like "क्या आपने लिया अपना हक?"
आपने लिया अपना हक, क्या आपने लिया अपना हक?
is taking a rights-based approach through its TVCs, radio spots and print advertisements.
किसे बेवकूफ बना रहा है छोटू? मुझे पता है मेरा हक क्या है।
7 TVCs produced by Pradeep Sarkar and directed by Jaideep Sarkar aim at bringing up these issues. The government is steering clear of any over-the-top communication that may cost them even more votes, considering the precarious position they are in. UPA has learned from BJP's India Shining debacle and are hence keeping it as real and low-key as possible, focusing on rural India and the daily struggle of the Aam Aadmi through their campaign.
It was a kind of a brief that was given to make it as clearly, as simple and as straightforward as possible. Do not overdo. As a matter of fact, while doing the overarching film, we had done a few things which were perhaps being slightly, you can say, jhamak dikhane ke liye. It was cut down by the minister. Don't do that. Don't show which is not supposed to be shown. Don't do that.
I went ahead and I shot a lot of celebratory images of of people dancing and celebration and things like that, and that is not something that sort of was falling within the brief of it. So what we did, we had to rework that brief. So it's a nice balance where you have the celebration of the music in the video as well, and yet it's not ostentatious.
The BJP kind of had a problem because of overplaying their hand as they did in the India Shining campaign. And therefore, I think any government, thereafter is going to be much more cautious in not seeming to sort of gloat. In any case, the UPA has not that much to gloat about. The popular sentiment is so strongly against the UPA that for it to come in and start saying something, and do chest thumping would seem absurd, because at a time like this, over-ambition would be the worst thing of all. There are many ways for this campaign to fail and very few ways for it to succeed. The price of success is very low and the price of failure is very high. So, whichever way you look at it, it makes sense to keep it low-key and keep your head down.
Slotted to run for a month, the print ads, TVCs and radio ads for this phase of the campaign have also been released in 10 to 12 languages, including Assamese, Kannada, Gujarati, Telugu, Bangla and Marathi to reach a more diverse audience. The TVCs are airing across Hindi news channels and GECs, keeping the frequency on English news channels to a minimum, bearing the audience in mind. Adding to the earthiness, popular singer Kailash Kher was also roped in to sing the overreaching Bharat Nirman jingle for this phase of the campaign.
ये देश है मेरा, इस पर हक है मेरा, हो रहा भारत निर्माण, भारत के इस निर्माण पे हक है मेरा. I have been working for these people, Percept, Pradeep Sarkar. I respect him a lot. So he called me and he approached me. He says that, but I have a very less budget, because each time they used to come, it used to be little less budget since it's a government project. तो मैंने बोला जी आप बस आइए और गवाइए, तो जो भी आपका बजट होगा हम कर देंगे एडजस्ट. तो फिर हमने जैसे ही वो गवाने आए, वो पूछने लगे तो हम कितना आपको बना दें चेक. इनका आप नमस्ते का, धन्यवाद का एक चेक दे दीजिए और वो भी चेक नहीं, आशीर्वाद.
While reports have been rife about the extravagant spends to the tune of ₹100 crore on this phase of the Bharat Nirman campaign, government sources refute this figure, claiming that the amount is actually inclusive of the spends on all the publicity-generating activities carried out by the Ministry of I&B annually. The government also has no plans of taking this campaign online, citing the futility of social media for the Bharat Nirman communication and the audience it is intended for.
और स्थायी आमदनी का हक.
क्या आपने लिया अपना हक।
Political advertising does not, in the normal course of events, reach the large base of India simply because of media access issues. So this is not a campaign, that actually does what it says that it sets out to do. This is a campaign which is essentially aimed at communicating to the party itself and the government itself that it is it has woken up. That it will succeed in doing.
Assuming that this kind of campaigns will bail out a government is a fallacy. If that is the case, no government will ever lose the power. There is always a party in power starts with a fallacy that by going for a heavy advertisement or carpet advertising, they can win back the voter. I think that fallacy needs to be corrected. UPA government, one of the flagship program is Right to Information Act and several other empowerment of the citizens. But the campaign doesn't really focus on them so much as they are talking about the rural health and NREG, the Rural Employment Guarantee Program, and the infrastructure programs. But the real things that are really making some difference at the grassroots level, I think they are missing in this campaign.
If ever the Congress was determined to be the phoenix that rose from its ashes, it is now. But with an information campaign that may be obsolete for a large chunk of their urban voting bank and a refusal to truly engage on social media to their advantage, Congress's strategy for the elections in 2014 has a long way to go before it actually results in a dramatic reversal of their fortunes.
Now here's one topic that's been discussed time and again, the big sales versus marketing war that exists in almost all companies. While salespeople often accuse marketing of being too out of touch with the evolving needs of the market, marketing blames sales for thinking too myopically, only looking at short-term benefits. The outcome of this constant friction and bickering is that both departments work in silos with little or sometimes no communication with each other. Khushbu Patodia dug deep to get to the root cause of this divide and spoke to a variety of experts on whether sales versus marketing can ever become sales and marketing. Take it away.
Sales sells, marketing spends. Sales is referred to as the sales force. Marketing is seen as the cost center. While the sales team only comes into the picture when a product has to be sold, marketing is the one that's at the helm of strategy and planning while the product is in its making. They may seem different, yet both sales and marketing are nothing but two sides of the same coin. But what's shocking is the fact that in most companies, these two sides do not meet. A lack of alignment and collaboration between sales and marketing within organizations has led to what one may call a proverbial silos. So instead of sales and marketing, what really exists is sales versus marketing.
One of the most important barriers to overcome is this process of aligning priorities. And how can we integrate the process? How can we get both sales and marketing to talk upstream together in determining priorities, rather than the more conventional approach of marketing working out its priorities and then coming to sales in a little more downstream sense. So that's, I think, one big area of working for integration. The second one is a little more about the whole disease of who gets the credit, kind of piece. Fundamentally, I really believe that if there is a culture where both sales and marketing are fighting for credit, because everything is jointly delivered, and if you're fighting for saying who gets more credit, then you run into challenges.
When you look at the end goal and the targets that a sales guy chases or the marketing guy chases are very different, and that I think is the starting point of why even the starting point is so different. Because this marketing guy is looking at brand health scores, customer satisfaction scores, looking at loyalty, brand equity, and without actually understanding how each of these measures are going to impact what the sales guy is interested in, which is revenues and top lines. The correlation between the two is so weak that that is what causes most of the friction.
Conventionally, there is a need to define the role of both sales and marketing based on a customer's decision sequence as classified by the buying funnel. The buying funnel requires marketing to build brand awareness and brand preference, create a marketing plan, and generate leads for sales. Here on, they hand over to sales that executes the marketing plan and follow up with the leads. That is the ideal picture. But there are challenges galore. Salespeople believe in most instances marketing refuses to take responsibility of any failure and create a scenario that pits marketing versus everyone else. Add to that a lack of defined metrics for measuring marketing's output.
Why is marketing always versus somebody? And the reason at times is because the marketing fraternity can get away by giving examples of we are into building brand equity, we are into building long term, don't look at my solution in the immediate term context. But the reality is that you are here to sell your brands profitably. And I think somewhere the metrics for marketing measurement are still a bit rudimentary. I don't see that, while for any other measure, for any other discipline of the organization, the measures are much more clearer. But I think the marketing institution has not really worked hard enough to develop such clear metrics.
In spite of all the differences, companies believe that brand health is as much a marketing person's challenge as a salesperson's challenge. Time and again, the need to align the two verticals through various measures has been discussed in boardrooms, but only few companies have successfully employed these steps at the physical level. Take, for instance, Cadbury's Oreo launch in India. Being a category that requires a large distribution width, something Cadbury currently lacks in the country, they adopted the multiplicative strategy by early alignment of both sales and marketing at the planning level. Exchange of ideas between the two departments from the beginning is what helped them successfully launch Oreo in a rather competitive market. Adopting steps like these is what companies believe will help them integrate and align these two sides of the coin called organizational success.
The CEOs of the organization need to understand the relevance, the importance, and the sheer need that marketing is an investment and not a spend. The second thing that needs to be done is, of course, you need to walk the field and have a direct interaction with the customers. That's the most important thing, because most of your demand generation and need creation activity should be done with the real feel of the market and the real feel and real pulse of the customer, as against relying on a lot of secondary data and research.
They hardly communicate, they sporadically perform, but the one thing they do with consistency is complain. With time, companies are realizing that until and unless the end goals of the two are tied with the same thread, sales versus marketing will never become sales and marketing. And it is the cultural differences that need to be addressed first rather than economic.
Let's move on. Global sportswear giant Fila is setting up an aggressive expansion strategy with an eye on the larger pie of the market share in India. The leading sportswear maker has decided to extend its license agreement with Cravatex for another 30 years. Fila is also looking at increasing its 35 exclusive stores across the country to at least 100 in addition to 1,800 outlets. Although the retail company originally entered the Indian market in 2002, it has been lagging behind rivals like Reebok, Nike and Puma with a mere 5% market share of the 2,000 crore sportswear market in India. Fila in India managed a retail revenue of rupees 120 crores in 2011-2012 out of the company's global sales of nearly 6,500 crores, accounting for only 1.84% of the total sales. However, it is optimistic about being able to double its market share in India to 9 to 10% by 2015. With one of the biggest competitors, Reebok, now on a downhill spiral following allegations of corporate fraud, the timing for Fila to up its game is perfect.
If you look at the India market itself, I think that it's more important, lifestyle, sports instead of the performance sport. in that sense, I think the Fila brand is more, fit, to the India market. In that point, I think the Fila can be much, strong potential than any other competitor.
It's time to get commercial, but up next we take you straight to Gurgaon to India's first official media hangout, the Media Cafe. Stay tuned. Only 3 months since they called it quits at Lintas Media, Sudha Natarajan and Raghav Subramaniam joined hands to launch their own venture. Earlier this month, the duo finally threw open the doors of their startup called TMC Corporation. Offering a gamut of services, TMC is an attempt to change the face of media planning and servicing in the country, but with a twist. The twist being the Media Cafe that has been launched specifically for the media industry to infuse fun with work. Brand Equity brings you a first look of the Media Cafe. Take it away.
Put close to 40 years of combined work experience in the media industry together, and what is born is the TMC Corporation. A joint venture between Sudha Natarajan, former CEO of Lintas Initiative Media, and Raghav Subramaniam, former COO of Lintas Initiative Outdoor. TMC is an entity that offers 5 different kinds of services, namely the media consultants, the media consumer, the media calibrators, the media content, and the big highlight of them all, the Media Cafe. Launched in Gurgaon, the Media Cafe officially calls itself the brick and mortar pub.
After 20 years, what have we gained from the industry? This industry is filled with people. You take the people out, there is no industry. So why don't we, put a place up for the people where we can continue to bond with them, where we can give them a place that they can call their own. So that gave birth to the cafe. This is also a little twist in the sense that it gave us the opportunity to explore an industry that we don't know anything about, the F&B industry.
With the idea of making work pleasurable and foster a sense of belonging in the industry, the Media Cafe hopes to take you back to your college canteen days with a menu that offers omelette in a bun and low bench seating where one can hang out for hours as the cafe is open from noon to midnight. At the same time, it boasts of a sprawling bar, low lighting and a stage that will allow for stand-up acts to musical performances.
A lot of activity, a lot of media events, a lot of interaction, networking. So much comes out of a small brick and mortar place. Here, every night is going to be like a media night. You walk in alone, you find 4 or 5 friends of yours. So it's more a space. It's to call the media space.
Having no prior experience in the food and beverage industry, partners Sudha and Raghav believe the Media Cafe is going to be the most challenging one. But keeping both hopes and excitement high, the duo plans to take TMC to other cities by next year.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Brand Equity. We'd love to hear from you, so do write into Brand Equity at etnow.tv or alternatively text us at 58888 with your feedback. Also, do take the time and log on to our Facebook page, that's facebook.com/brandequity, to start a conversation with us or to dip into our archives. You could do the same on Twitter at Brand Equity Live. Hope you enjoyed the show. Until next week, ciao, ciao.